Let's be honest, you've stared at your phone more times than you'd like to admit, waiting, overanalyzing that last text you sent, and every hour that goes by without a reply feels like a rejection. But here's the truth, it's not you. It's not your worth, your message, your tone, or whether you use too many emojis. It's about them, more specifically. It's about their emotional wiring. People with dismissive avoidant attachment don't just reply late. They distance, they delay, they disconnect. Why? Because connection feels like pressure to them, real intimacy. Emotional availability isn't just uncomfortable, it's terrifying. When a dismissive avoidant feels closeness, their brain sounds an alarm. Too much, too fast, too close, so they retreat, not to hurt you, not to manipulate, but because space is their safety, and silence, that's how they regulate themselves. But here's the kicker. You're not responsible for decoding that silence. You're not supposed to bend and twist yourself just to understand their coping mechanism, because while they may need time, you need truth. While they may take space, you need respect. And while they may delay, you deserve clarity. Listen, you don't need to chase someone whose first instinct is to run. You don't need to overfunction in conversations that feel one-sided. And you sure as hell don't need to lose your peace while waiting on their reply. You are not here to audition for someone's fragmented attention. You are here to live fully, love deeply, and be met equally. So the next time your phone stays silent for days, don't panic. Pause and ask yourself, is this what I want to keep feeling? Because the truth isn't just about why they take forever to reply. It's about why you keep waiting, and maybe it's time you stop. Late replies from dismissive avoidance are about emotional discomfort, not disrespect. That's a hard truth to swallow when you're the one left on read, checking your phone again and again, wondering what you did wrong. But it's not about you. It's not that your message wasn't important. It's not that they don't care at all. It's that caring feels like a threat to them. You see, people with a dismissive avoidant attachment style often grew up in environments where emotional closeness was unreliable, overwhelming, or even punished. So what did they learn? They learned that it's safer to stay distant. They learned that connection can cost them their sense of control. They built a wall not out of cruelty, but out of self-protection. When someone with this attachment style gets a message, especially if it's emotionally charged, personal, or vulnerable, their first instinct isn't to lean in. It's to pause, to retreat, to create space. Because replying too soon might feel like stepping into something they can't control, something they fear will ask too much of them, something they were never taught how to handle, and so they delay. They think, they rationalize, they convince themselves that it's better to respond later when things feel less intense. But sometimes later becomes never, not because they forgot, not because they wanted to hurt you, but because the emotional discomfort became so loud inside them that silence felt like the only relief. That silence isn't meant to punish you, it's meant to protect them, even if it doesn't seem fair. Even if it feels cold, and yes, it can absolutely feel like rejection. It can trigger every insecurity you have, make you question your worth, make you overanalyze every word you sent, but the delay in their reply doesn't reflect your value. It reflects their limitation, their fear, their conditioning. They're not trying to disrespect you. They're trying to survive an emotional world they never learned to navigate, understanding that won't make it hurt less in the moment. But it might help you stop blaming yourself for their absence, because sometimes people don't stay silent out of disregard. Sometimes they go quiet because even the sound of connection feels too loud for them to handle. Their silence is a defense mechanism against emotional intimacy. It's not just quiet, it's calculated distance, it's emotional armor, a strategy built over time to feel safe in a world where closeness once felt dangerous. You might think they're being cold, detached, uncaring, but silence for them is a form of self-protection. It's how they control vulnerability, because vulnerability to them isn't just uncomfortable. It's risky, it means exposure, it means being seen in ways they were taught not to trust. Somewhere in their past, maybe in childhood, maybe in early relationships, they learned that opening up led to pain. to rejection, to feeling overwhelmed, so they chose distance. Silence became the shield that kept them safe from emotional chaos. And now, every time someone gets too close, every time real intimacy tries to break through, that silence shows up again. Like a reflex, like muscle memory. It doesn't mean they don't feel anything. It doesn't mean they're incapable of love, but it does mean they struggle to handle the intensity of connection. When emotions rise, they shut down. When vulnerability is asked of them, they retreat. Not because they want to hurt you, but because they don't know how to stay present without feeling like they're drowning. So they go quiet. They withdraw. They avoid the conversation. They leave the message unanswered, not out of cruelty, but because silence gives them back a sense of control. That silence tells them, I'm safe. I don't have to feel too much. I don't have to risk being misunderstood or rejected. But for the person on the other side, that silence can feel like abandonment, like being shut out of something you're trying to build together, like screaming into a void that never answers back. It's easy to take it personally, to think if they cared, they'd respond. But in their world, responding feels like exposure, and exposure feels like danger. Their silence is not absence of emotion. It's fear of emotional intimacy. It's fear of depending on someone. It's fear of being fully known. They fear closeness not because they don't want it, but because they were never shown how to feel safe in it. So they hide behind silence. Because it's the only language they trust when emotions feel too loud. They don't delay to hurt you. It's their way of coping. When you see the typing bubble disappear, when hours go by without a reply, when days stretch with silence and no explanation, it's natural to feel hurt. It's natural to assume it's about you, but often it's not. Their delay isn't punishment, it's protection, not from you, but from their own overwhelming emotions. People with avoidant tendencies don't cope the way others do. Where most would reach out, they pull away. Where others seek connection, they seek space. Emotional intensity triggers their survival mode. And in survival mode, the first instinct is retreat. It's not calculated cruelty. It's an old pattern, a learned behavior that once helped them feel safe in relationships that didn't offer emotional security. So now, when something feels too close, too intense, too vulnerable, they shut down. They pause. They delay the reply, not because they want you to suffer, but because silence is the only way they know how to breathe. They feel overwhelmed, and instead of moving toward the discomfort, they freeze. They detach. They avoid. And while you wait, spiraling, replaying every word you said, they're trying to calm the storm inside them. That delay, that silence, that gap in communication, it's not a strategy to hurt. It's a reflex to cope. They may not even realize how their delay affects you. To them, they're just buying time, creating space to think, hoping the intensity dies down so they can respond from a place that feels more manageable. But what feels like a normal pause to them feels like rejection to you, and that disconnect in experience is where the pain grows. They don't delay because they don't care. They delay because responding too soon feels unsafe, because engaging with emotion feels foreign, because they haven't learned how to stay present in discomfort. So they lean on avoidance, on space, on silence, and yes, it hurts, because connection doesn't live in avoidance. It lives in presence, in responsiveness, in being seen and heard. But they don't delay to wound you. They delay to soothe themselves. It's how they manage emotional pressure, not by facing it, but by stepping away from it. They're not playing games. They're trying to survive emotions they never learned to hold. You shouldn't personalize their emotional unavailability, even though it feels like rejection, even though the silence stings, even though their distance makes you question your worth. You didn't cause their avoidance. You didn't create their emotional walls, and you're not responsible for tearing them down. Their inability to open up, to connect deeply, to respond with presence that comes from their past, from patterns shaped long before you ever entered their life. Maybe they were taught to suppress their feelings. Maybe they learned that emotions made them weak. Maybe every time they tried to be vulnerable, they were dismissed or ignored. So now, when you offer closeness, they back away. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because they're doing what they've always done, protecting themselves from pain. Still, it's easy to take it personally. To believe if you were better, if you said it differently, if you tried harder, they'd finally let you in. But emotional unavailability is not a mirror of your value. It's a reflection of their limitations. You could be the most loving, patient, emotionally intelligent person, and they would still struggle to meet you where you are. Because their armor isn't about you, it's about their fear, their discomfort, their lack of emotional tools. You can't fix that with more love. You can't heal that by shrinking yourself. And you can't keep setting yourself on fire just to keep a connection warm. Their inability to show up emotionally is not a sign that you are too much. It's a sign that they're not ready, not willing, or not capable, and you deserve more than crumbs of connection. You deserve someone who meets you in the middle. Someone who doesn't retreat when things get real. Someone who's not afraid of intimacy. So no, you shouldn't take their distance as proof that you're unworthy. Their silence does not mean you don't matter. Their withdrawal doesn't mean you're too emotional, too needy, or too intense. It just means they have work to do, work that only they can choose to face, and until then, their unavailability will continue, no matter who they're with. You're not the problem, you're just the one who sees the problem clearly, and now it's your choice whether to keep knocking on a door that won't open. You are not responsible for interpreting their silence. You don't have to decode every pause. You don't need to replay every message. You don't have to wonder what you did wrong or how you could have said it better. Silence can be loud, yes, but that doesn't mean it holds answers you're meant to find. Their lack of response is not a puzzle for you to solve. It's not your job to fill in the blanks they leave behind. You are not the translator of their emotional absence, and yet, that's what so many of us do. We overthink. We create stories, we assume the worst, we wonder if we were too much, too needy, too emotional, too honest. We sit in their silence and turn it into self-doubt, but the truth is silence doesn't always mean something about you. Sometimes it just means they're avoiding. Sometimes it means they're emotionally shut down. Sometimes it means they don't know how to respond or don't care enough to try. And sometimes it means nothing at all. But your mind wants answers, so it tries to make sense of the quiet, and in that process, you carry a weight that doesn't belong to you. It is not your responsibility to read between the lines of someone who refuses to speak clearly. It is not your responsibility to soothe yourself while also excusing their distance. It is not your responsibility to turn emotional neglect into understanding, because silence on its own is a choice. And people who care, who respect, who are present, they communicate, even when it's uncomfortable, even when they're struggling. Silence may be how they cope, but that doesn't mean you have to carry the burden of making sense of it. You don't have to explain their behavior to yourself or to anyone else. If they're silent, let them be. Let their silence speak for itself. Don't chase after meaning that they refuse to give you. Your peace is too valuable to be traded for unanswered questions. Yourself. Worth is too sacred to be tied to someone else's emotional avoidance. You are not responsible for interpreting their silence. You are only responsible for how long you allow yourself to sit in it. So if you've been carrying the weight of their silence, trying to find meaning where there is none, trying to turn absence into understanding, let this be your reminder. You don't owe anyone the labor of over-explaining their avoidance. You don't need to shrink just to keep a one-sided connection alive, and you don't have to keep waiting in the quiet, hoping it eventually turns into clarity. Their silence is theirs to own, but your peace, your worth, your emotional safety, those are yours to protect. So stop interpreting their silence and start listening to your own voice, because that's the one that's been waiting to be heard all along.